The unexpected arrival. The battle had raged for 17 standard cycles. Across the Marin Nebula, the fleets of the Valorian Alliance and the Krell Dominion danced their deadly waltz. Energy weapons slicing through the void while strike fighters darted between capital ships like angry insects. The prize was the Nexus Gate, an ancient structure of unknown origin that could connect to 6 different star systems instantaneously, bypassing the need for conventional FTL travel. Commander Serix of the Valorian flagship Eternal Vigilance stared at the tactical display with all 4 of his eyes narrowed in concentration. His gray-blue scales shimmered under the harsh lights of the command bridge, and his breathing apparatus clicked rhythmically as it filtered the oxygen-rich atmosphere to match his homeworld's composition. "Status report," he demanded, mandibles clicking with tension. His second-in-command, Sub-Commander Vexa, glided to his side. Unlike Serix, who was of the warrior caste, Vexa possessed the slender build and elongated cranial ridge of the administrator caste, though her tactical mind rivaled any in the fleet. "The Krell have deployed 3 more dreadnoughts from their rear line," she reported. "Our forward elements are holding, but barely. Casualties are mounting. The 7th Strike Wing has been completely lost." Serix hissed softly. That was 5,000 lives. Gone. The Valorian Alliance had been fighting this war for 3 generations now. What had begun as border skirmishes over resource-rich planets had escalated into full-scale warfare when the Krell Dominion's expansion threatened the very existence of the Alliance. "And the Nexus Gate?" he asked. "Still secure. Our shield generators continue to hold, though power reserves are down to 47%. If the Krell break through—" A lieutenant interrupted with an urgent chirp. "Commander, anomalous readings detected at coordinates 37 Mark 89. "Specify," Serix demanded, turning his primary eyes toward the tactical display while keeping his secondary pair fixed on the viewport that revealed the actual battlefield. "Energy signature unlike anything on record, sir. Massive quantum fluctuations. It's as if space itself is being torn open." Serix felt a chill run along his dorsal ridge. "Show me." The tactical display shifted, focusing on a region of space approximately 300,000 kilometers from the main battle line. At first, there was nothing, and then a pinprick of brilliant blue light appeared, expanding rapidly into a swirling vortex that seemed to bend the very fabric of reality around it. "By the first ancestors," Vexa whispered. "Alert all ships," Serix commanded. "Unknown phenomenon, possibly hostile. Defensive formation Delta 7. As the Valorian ships nearest to the anomaly began to reposition, Serix noticed that the Krell fleet was doing the same. For a moment, the ongoing battle seemed to pause as both factions turned their attention to this new development. The vortex grew, its edges crackling with energy that the sensors couldn't properly categorize. Then, without warning, something began to emerge. "Magnify," Serix ordered. The display zoomed in on an object, a ship unlike anything Serix had ever seen. Where Valorian vessels were elegant and organic in design, with flowing lines that mimicked the aquatic predators of their homeworld, and Krell ships were angular and crystalline, this newcomer was brutally functional. It was massive, easily rivaling a Valorian dreadnought in size, with a dark hull that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Numerous protrusions that could only be weapon systems dotted its surface, and massive engines glowed with an eerie blue light. "Configuration unknown," the sensor operator reported. "No match in any database. Hull composition is, sir, I can't get accurate readings. Something is blocking our scans. Open a communication channel," Serix decided after a moment of consideration. Before Vexa could comply, the lieutenant spoke again. "Sir, the Krell are moving. 3 destroyer-class vessels approaching the unknown ship." On the display, Serix watched as the Krell ships broke from their formations and accelerated toward the newcomer. It was a typical Krell response. Shoot first, analyze the debris later. "Warn them off," Syrinx ordered. "If that ship is as powerful as it looks." Too late. The Krell destroyers opened fire, green energy beams stabbing across space toward the mysterious vessel. What happened next left everyone on the bridge of the Eternal Vigilance in stunned silence. The energy beams, capable of penetrating Valorian shield technology and reducing a cruiser to molten slag, simply vanished as they touched some kind of invisible barrier surrounding the newcomer. There was no flare of shields, no visual indication of any defensive system at all. The attacks simply ceased to exist. For a heartbeat, nothing moved. Then the unknown ship responded. A series of small apertures opened along its hull, and pinpoints of light flickered briefly. The Krell destroyers didn't explode. They disintegrated, coming apart as if their molecular bonds had simply given up and decided to go their separate ways. One moment 3 warships were there, the next nothing but expanding clouds of rapidly cooling particles. By all the gods, Vexa breathed. A new alert sounded. "Commander, we're receiving a transmission. It's being broadcast on all frequencies, in all known communication protocols." "Put it through," Syrinx managed, his throat suddenly dry. A holographic display materialized in the center of the bridge. The image that formed sent a wave of whispers through the command crew. The being was bipedal and entirely unfamiliar, smooth pinkish-brown skin covering a soft-looking body, with a flat face dominated by 2 forward-facing eyes, a protruding nasal structure, and a lipless mouth. It wore some kind of uniform in dark blue with silver accents. "Attention Valorian Alliance and Krell Dominion forces," the creature spoke in flawless galactic standard. "This is Captain Maya Chen of the Earth Defense Force vessel Defiance. We represent humanity, a species previously unknown to your civilizations." Captain Chen's expression remained neutral, professional, but Syrinx detected something in those alien eyes, a hardness, a determination that he recognized from his own mirror. "We have been observing your conflict from the shadows for some time," Chen continued. "The technology you are fighting over, what you call the Nexus Gate, is of human origin. It was placed here 7,000 years ago by our ancestors as part of an exploration network. We have come to reclaim it." Murmurs of disbelief filled the bridge. The Nexus Gate predated both Valorian and Krell spaceflight. The idea that it belonged to this unknown species was unthinkable. "Both your civilizations will immediately cease hostilities in this region," Chen stated, not as a request, but as a simple fact. "Any further aggression toward the gate or toward our vessel will be met with appropriate response. You have witnessed a fraction of our capabilities. We do not wish to cause unnecessary casualties." The hologram flickered slightly as Chen's expression softened marginally. "However, we are not here merely to take what is ours and leave. Humanity is prepared to offer both the Valorian Alliance and the Krell Dominion access to the Gate network under specific terms and oversight. We invite representatives from both factions to come aboard the Defiance for preliminary discussions within the next 12 standard hours." Chen's gaze seemed to intensify, somehow making Syrinx feel as though those alien eyes were looking directly at him. "Choose carefully. This is an opportunity for peace and advancement for all our species. Alternatively, it can be something else entirely. The choice is yours." Defiance out. The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in silence. "Commander," Vexa finally spoke, "High Command must be informed immediately." Syrinx nodded, his mind racing. In the span of mere minutes, everything had changed. A new species had arrived with technology that made both the Valorian Alliance and the Krell Dominion look primitive by comparison. The Nexus Gate, the very reason for this bloody, generations-long war, apparently belonged to these humans all along. "Send the message," he ordered, "and prepare a shuttle. I will go to this Defiance myself." "Sir." Vex's voice carried unmistakable concern. "That may not be wise. We know nothing about these humans except that they possess weapons capable of destroying Krell destroyers in seconds. Sarix turned all four eyes to the view screen, where the human vessel hung motionless against the backdrop of stars, seemingly unconcerned by the two massive fleets positioned nearby. "Look at them, Vexa," he said quietly. "If they wanted us dead, we would be." "No, I think Captain Chen spoke truly. They want to talk. And I, for one, am very interested in what they have to say." As if to underscore his point, the tactical display updated with new information. The Krell Dominion's flagship was launching a small shuttle. It seems, Sarix noted with grim amusement, that for once, the Krell and I are in agreement. He straightened his posture, adjusting his ceremonial armor. "Have my diplomatic attaché prepare the necessary protocols, and alert medical to prepare for possible first contact biological concerns." As his crew hurried to comply, Sarix kept his gaze fixed on the human ship. In all his cycles of service, he had never seen anything like it, or like the being who commanded it. This Captain Chen had single-handedly brought a halt to the largest space battle in known history with a few words and a demonstration of power that defied understanding. "What are you really after?" he murmured to himself. "And what happens to us if we refuse you?" For the first time in many cycles, Commander Sarix felt something unfamiliar stirring within him, a blend of fear, curiosity, and, strangely, hope. Whatever happened next would change the course of galactic history forever. The age of Valorian and Krell dominance had ended. The age of humanity had begun. The balance of power. Captain Maya Chen stood motionless before the view screen in the Defiance's conference chamber, hands clasped behind her back as she observed the approaching alien shuttles, one sleek and organic, gliding through space like some bioluminescent deep-sea creature, Valorian design. The other angular and crystalline, propelled by pulsing green energy, unmistakably Krell. "Quite the parade you've summoned, Captain," remarked Commander Jackson, her XO, as he joined her at the view screen. The tall, dark-skinned man had served alongside Chen for 8 years through humanity's secretive expansion beyond the solar system. "Not a parade, Commander," Chen corrected. "A reckoning." The door to the conference chamber hissed open as Lieutenant Hayes, the ship's xenobiologist, entered. "Environmental adjustments complete, Captain. The chamber will maintain an atmosphere compatible with both Valorian and Krell physiology while remaining comfortable for us." Chen nodded. "Security protocols in place," Jackson confirmed. "Non-lethal countermeasures only, as ordered. Though I still think—" "Your objection is noted, Commander," Chen cut him off. "But we're not here to start a war, just to end one." After 15 minutes of careful docking procedures, the airlock cycled, and Chen found herself face to face with the alien delegates. The Valorian commander was tall and reptilian, with 4 eyes. 2 large primary ones, and 2 smaller secondary ones set higher on his skull. His scales shimmered with subtle iridescence, and a breathing apparatus covered the lower portion of his face. The Krell representative was even more alien, an arthropoid being nearly 7 feet tall with a chitinous exoskeleton of deep crimson. 4 arms folded precisely across its thorax, while compound eyes glittered with an intelligence that Chen found instantly recognizable, despite the vast evolutionary gulf between them. "Welcome aboard the Defiance," Chen greeted them. "I am Captain Maya Chen. This is my executive officer, Commander Jackson, and our xenobiological specialist, Lieutenant Hayes." The Valorian stepped forward first. "I am Commander Sarix of the Valorian Alliance vessel Eternal Vigilance. We come in peace and with authority to speak for the High Command." The Krell's mandibles clicked and whirred in a pattern that the Defiance's translation system rendered into speech. "Supreme Director Cactul of the Krell Dominion flagship Inevitable Conquest. I speak with the voice of the Dominion itself." Chen raised an eyebrow slightly. The Krell had sent their actual leader, not merely a military commander. "Interesting. Please be seated." She gestured to the specially designed chairs around the conference table. "I appreciate your prompt response to our invitation." Invitation. Galactic's mandibles clicked rapidly in what Chen suspected was the Krell equivalent of a sardonic laugh. After witnessing the destruction of 3 Krell destroyers in less time than it takes to draw breath, I would characterize it differently. Those ships fired upon us without provocation, Chen replied evenly. Our response was measured and proportionate. Measured? Syrinx interjected, all 4 eyes widening. You reduced 3 warships to their constituent atoms. Chen met his gaze steadily. Had we wished to destroy your fleets, we could have done so upon arrival. Instead, we chose to demonstrate enough power to command attention, nothing more. The silence that followed was heavy with unspoken calculations and reassessments. You claim the Nexus Gate is of human origin, Syrinx finally said. This is difficult to accept. Our archaeologists date it to at least 10,000 years ago, when humans, by all accounts, had not yet achieved spaceflight. Chen nodded. Your dating methods are accurate. 10,000 years ago, the human civilization that built the Gate network was at its height. We called ourselves the Solarian Ecumene then. Our empire spanned nearly a third of this galaxy. She touched a control panel, and a holographic display materialized above the table, showing a map of the galaxy with numerous points of light interconnected by lines, the Gate network in its entirety. Then why have we never encountered your kind before? Galactic demanded. Where is this vast human empire now? Chen's expression remained neutral, though Jackson noticed the subtle tightening of her jaw. We destroyed ourselves, she said simply. A civil war that lasted 3 centuries and ended with the deployment of weapons that made those used today look like children's toys. What you call the Nexus Gate is one of the few pieces of ecumene technology that survived relatively intact. She gestured again, and the holographic display shifted to show archaeological images, ruins of vast cities on distant planets, twisted remnants of massive structures orbiting dead stars. Humanity nearly went extinct. The survivors on Earth lost all knowledge of our past glory. We had to rebuild from almost nothing, rediscover spaceflight, relearn physics, medicine, everything. Only in the last 50 years did we discover evidence of our true history. Syrinx leaned forward, fascination temporarily overriding caution. How? After so much time, how did you reconnect with this lost knowledge? Chen's lips curved in a small smile. We found a message, Commander. Our ancestors knew what was coming. They buried vaults deep beneath Earth's surface, containing records, technology, and coordinates to a small outpost on Mars, our neighboring planet, that had survived the cataclysm. That outpost contained a single damaged gate, which you repaired, Galactic concluded. It took us 20 years, Chen acknowledged. But yes, once operational, it allowed us to access a hidden network separate from the primary one you've been fighting over. We've spent the last decade exploring the remnants of our former civilization, reclaiming what was ours, and monitoring the current galactic political situation. The Valorian and Krell representatives exchanged glances, a surprisingly similar gesture across such different species. And now you have returned to claim your inheritance, Syrinx said carefully. In a manner of speaking, Chen agreed. But as I said in my initial communication, we're not here to simply take the gate and leave. Humanity has learned from its mistakes. We have no desire to rebuild an empire, nor to dominate other species. Then what do you want? Galactic's compound eyes seemed to glitter with suspicion. Chen leaned forward. Peace. Cooperation. The gates were designed to connect worlds, not to serve as prizes in an endless war. We propose a joint administration of the Nexus Gate, Valorian, Krell, and human together. Access for all, benefit for all. Impossible. Galactic snapped immediately. The Dominion would never share. You misunderstand, Chen interrupted calmly. This isn't a negotiation over whether the gate will be shared. That decision has been made. What we're discussing now are the terms of that sharing. The implicit threat hung in the air between them. Serix's breathing apparatus clicked rapidly as he processed this. The Alliance would be amenable to discussing such terms, but our conflict with the Krell goes beyond the gate itself. There are territorial disputes, resource claims, all of which pale in comparison to what humanity can offer both your peoples, Chen countered. Medical technology that could extend your lifespans by centuries. Energy production methods that would make resource wars unnecessary. FTL communications that don't rely on gates at all. She stood and walked to the view screen, where the Nexus Gate was visible in the distance, its ancient structure gleaming in the light of the nearby star. 3 options lie before you, she continued. First, reject our proposal, resume your war, and watch as we simply take what is ours and leave you to your mutual destruction. Second, attempt to unite against us. She turned back to face them, and discovered just how merciful our earlier demonstration truly was. Even Cactol seemed to recoil slightly at that. Or third, Chen's voice softened, join us in building something better than either of your civilizations has imagined possible. The conference room fell silent. Outside, the Valorian and Krell fleets remained in their standoff positions, thousands of ships poised on the edge of resuming their generational conflict, while a single human vessel hung between them, changing everything. Supreme Director Cactul rose abruptly, chitinous armor clicking. I must consult with the Dominion Conclave. This is beyond my authority alone. Chen nodded. Of course. Return to your vessel. You have 6 standard hours to deliberate. As the Krell leader left, Commander Serix remained seated, his 4 eyes fixed on Chen with an intensity that suggested deep calculation. You expected that reaction from the Krell, he observed once Kizaktul was gone. The psychology of conquering species is fairly consistent across evolutionary lines, Chen replied. The Krell rose to power through expansion and subjugation. The concept of genuine cooperation is almost physically painful to them. And what of the Valorians? Have you analyzed our psychology as well, Captain? Chen smiled slightly. Your people prefer to build rather than conquer. You fight because you must, not because you desire it. Am I wrong? Serix's eyes blinked in sequence, a gesture Chen's briefings had identified as indicating surprise or reluctant agreement. You are not, he admitted, but that makes me wonder why you've approached both our species in the same manner. If you understand us so well, surely you know the Alliance would be more receptive to your proposal than the Dominion. Because true peace requires all parties, Chen explained. A human Valorian alliance against the Krell would just be another war. We've had enough of those. She returned to her seat. Besides, the Krell are not monolithic. Hardliners like Kizaktul represent the old guard. There are progressive factions within the Dominion who've long advocated for de-escalation, but lacked the political capital to effect change. Serix's secondary eyes narrowed. You've been monitoring internal Krell politics. As I said, we've been watching for some time, Chen confirmed. When Cactul returns to his ship, he'll find a secure communication waiting for him. Data that will strengthen the position of those progressive elements. Information is sometimes more powerful than weapons, Commander. You humans are. Not what I expected. Serix admitted. Few species are, once you truly get to know them, Chen replied. Their conversation was interrupted by an urgent communication from the bridge. Captain, came the voice of Lieutenant Commander Reeves, the tactical officer. The Krell flagship has raised shields and is powering weapons. They're transmitting fleet-wide combat orders. Chen exchanged a look with Jackson, who shook his head slightly in disappointment but not surprise. It seems, she said to Serix, that Supreme Director Cactul has made his decision more quickly than anticipated. Serix rose immediately. Captain, I should return to my vessel. If the Krell are preparing to attack. Stay, Chen said with quiet authority. You'll be safer here, and you should witness what happens next. She tapped her communication badge. Bridge, this is the captain. Implement Thanatos protocol. Defensive measures only until I give the order. "Aye, Captain," came the response. Syrinx moved to the view screen, watching as the massive Krell fleet began to reorganize into attack formations. "They're targeting your ship specifically," he observed. "A decapitation strike." "Yes," Chen agreed, joining him at the view screen. A predictable response from a hierarchical species accustomed to overwhelming force. They believe if they destroy the Defiance, they'll eliminate the human threat entirely. Syrinx's breathing apparatus clicked rapidly. "Captain, even with your advanced technology, one ship cannot stand against the entire Krell armada." Chen turned to him, her expression calm but resolute. "Commander Syrinx, there's something you should understand about humanity. Throughout our rediscovery of our past, one lesson has remained constant. Never, ever reveal all your capabilities at once." The view screen shifted focus, zooming out to show a wider view of the battlefield. Suddenly, space itself seemed to ripple in dozens of locations surrounding the Krell fleet. "Spatial anomalies detected," reported Lieutenant Commander Reeves over the comm. "Quantum signatures match our own. They're coming through, Captain." One by one, ships began to emerge from what appeared to be tiers in the fabric of space-time. Human vessels of various configurations, but all bearing the same distinctive design elements as the Defiance. 10, 20, 50, 100. They kept coming, materializing in a perfect sphere around the Krell fleet, until over 300 human warships had appeared. Syrinx stumbled back from the view screen, all four eyes wide with shock. "By the first ancestors, you came with a fleet." "No, Commander," Chen corrected gently. "We came with a fleet. This is the Earth Defense Force, or rather, a small expeditionary element of it." On the view screen, the human ships maintained their positions, weapons still powered down, making no aggressive moves despite the Krell fleet's obvious hostile intent. "Your move, Supreme Director," Chen murmured. For several tense minutes, nothing happened. Then, gradually, the Krell vessels powered down their weapon systems and broke formation, returning to their previous positions. Chen's communication badge chimed. "Captain, we're receiving a transmission from the Krell flagship. Supreme Director Cactul is requesting to return to the Defiance to continue negotiations." A small, satisfied smile crossed Chen's face. "Tell him we'll be delighted to receive him." She turned to Syrinx, whose expression of stunned disbelief had yet to fade. "Now, Commander, shall we discuss the future of our three species over refreshments? I believe Lieutenant Hayes has prepared a selection compatible with Valorian biochemistry." As they walked back to the conference table, Syrinx found his voice again. "You've never intended to fight." "Of course not," Chen replied. "War is a failure of imagination, Commander. Humanity has already destroyed itself once through violence. We have no intention of repeating that mistake, or allowing others to make it in our place." She paused, her expression growing more serious. "But make no mistake, we will protect what's ours, and we will ensure peace in this region of space. The only question remaining is whether that peace comes through cooperation or through force. I sincerely hope it's the former." Syrinx glanced back at the view screen, where the human fleet still held position around the subdued Krell armada, and the Valorian ships watched from a distance. "I believe," he said slowly, "that many in the Alliance will share that hope." As they waited for Supreme Director Cactul's return, Chen reflected on how far humanity had come. From the ashes of its own destruction to this moment, when the course of galactic history hung in the balance. Whatever happened next, the age of isolation was over. Humanity had returned to the stars, bringing with it the hard-earned wisdom of a species that had seen the precipice of extinction and the determination to never approach it again. The turning point. 3 standard weeks had passed since the arrival of the Defiance and the human fleet. What had begun as a tense standoff had gradually evolved into something unprecedented. Representatives from 3 distinct species working side by side aboard a combined command station, hastily constructed near the Nexus Gate. Commander Syrinx found himself once again marveling at human efficiency as he entered the main strategic planning chamber. When the Valorians had proposed building a neutral facility for trilateral coordination, their engineers had estimated at least 6 months of construction time. The humans had simply deployed what they called automated fabrication units and completed the station in 7 days. "Commander, welcome," Captain Chen greeted him as the doors slid open. She stood before a massive holographic display showing real-time positions of all 3 fleets, now arranged in defensive formations around the Nexus Gate rather than facing each other. "Captain Chen," Syrinx acknowledged with a formal gesture of respect. "I understand the situation has developed." Chen's expression tightened slightly. "That's putting it mildly. Supreme Director Cactul was removed from power 6 hours ago. A faction calling themselves the Reform Conclave has seized control of the Krell government." "A coup?" Syrinx's secondary eyes widened in surprise. "That's unprecedented in Krell history." "Not entirely a coup," came a clicking voice from behind them. More of a necessary correction. They turned to see a Krell entering the chamber, but not Cactul. This one's exoskeleton was a deep blue rather than crimson, with intricate patterns etched into the chitin that Syrinx recognized as the markings of the scientific caste. "First Director Zexkar," Chen identified the newcomer, leader of the Reform Conclave, and now the acting head of the Krell Dominion. Syrinx performed the appropriate greeting for a Krell of high status, though he'd rarely had occasion to use it except in diplomatic simulations. "This is unexpected, yet inevitable," Zexkar replied, mandibles moving in precise patterns. "Cactul and the military caste have led our people to the brink of annihilation in pursuit of expansion for its own sake. The arrival of the humans merely accelerated a process already in motion." The Krell moved to the holographic display, examining it with compound eyes that seemed to assess 1,000 details simultaneously. "I bring both good news and concerning intelligence, allies." The word allies from a Krell directed at a Valorian nearly caused Syrinx's breathing apparatus to malfunction in shock. "The good news," Zexkar continued, "is that the Conclave has unanimously ratified the preliminary treaty regarding joint administration of the Nexus Gate and technological exchange programs." "That is excellent news," Chen acknowledged with a nod. "And the concerning intelligence." Zexkar's mandibles stilled momentarily. Before his removal, Cactul dispatched communiques to several like-minded species in neighboring sectors, species who share the Dominion's former philosophy regarding expansion and conquest. He called for reinforcements. Syrinx translated, his dorsal ridge stiffening. "Precisely," Zexkar confirmed. "Our intelligence suggests they are responding. Long-range sensors have detected multiple fleets converging on this system. Conservative estimates put their combined strength at approximately twice our current forces." Chen didn't appear particularly concerned. "How long until they arrive?" 72 standard hours, at their current velocity." Chen exchanged a glance with Commander Jackson, who had been quietly monitoring the discussion from a console nearby. He gave a subtle nod. "This may actually work to our advantage," Chen said after a moment. "A decisive demonstration now could prevent centuries of future conflict." Syrinx's primary eyes narrowed. "You speak as though you anticipated this development, Captain." "Not specifically," Chen admitted. "But human history suggests that significant power transitions are rarely smooth or unopposed. We prepared for various contingencies." She manipulated the holographic display, expanding it to show the surrounding star systems. "The species approaching, can you identify them?" Zexkar's appendages danced across the controls, highlighting 5 distinct fleet signatures. The Trezeri Imperium, the Volith Hierarchy, the Envax Collective, the Jurathi Hegemony, and the Drexar Clutch, all expansionist regimes with histories of aggression and territorial acquisition. "A coalition of conquerors," Syrinx observed grimly. "Each dangerous individually, lethal collectively. And none of them have encountered humanity yet," Chen added. She straightened, decision made. "We need to coordinate our defense. First Director, Can the Reform Conclave maintain control of your forces despite this external pressure? The military caste is divided, Zexkar admitted. Approximately 30% remain loyal to Kazakhtul's vision and may attempt to defect when the coalition arrives. The remainder have accepted the Conclave's authority, though some reluctantly. Commander Serix, the Valorian position. Serix's breathing apparatus clicked as he considered. The High Command fully supports the treaty. After generations of war, the prospect of peace and technological advancement is compelling. The Alliance fleet stands ready. Chen nodded. Then we prepare. Commander Jackson, initiate Protocol Thunderbolt. Authorization, Chen Alpha 79. Aye, Captain. Jackson responded, moving immediately to a communication terminal. Thunderbolt. Zexkar inquired, head tilting in curiosity. A contingency we developed for precisely this scenario, Chen explained. The approaching coalition believes they're facing 3 divided species that can be conquered individually. We're going to show them a unified force with capabilities they cannot match. She turned to a nearby console and brought up technical schematics that Serix didn't recognize, some kind of weapons platform, but unlike anything in the Valorian arsenal. What we revealed previously was our defensive capability, Chen continued. Now we'll demonstrate our offensive options. Over the